So welcome again. And again, in the morning, what we talked about was we talked about the experience, both internal and external, of customers. And we talked about how that embraces more than just task, but it embraces task and relationship and exceeding physical and emotional expectations in the workplace. As a leader and a worker, you lead that. And again, when I say you are the message, you are the carrier of the message. People make a correlation, as we learned from a quotation this morning, that they begin to associate their experience with you, and if they like you, they feel good about you, they see you as representation of the whole organization. So with this in mind, when Colleen and I got together and put our heads together about what some of the content might be for today, what we came up with, I have a clicker, is we're going to look at building trusting relationships, some elements to it. We're going to be looking at engaging the flexibility. We're going to look at communication styles. We decided to add this as a dimension. And we will be looking at what our style is, how you can adapt to other people's style, how other styles show how they can adapt to how people spend time, how people approach projects, tasks, conflict, and change. And there are specific details you will take away regarding that. The other piece that I think is critical, both verbal and nonverbal, is how can you be seen to be credible and how can you be credible? I'm going to pause here. A lot of people approach emotional intelligence as that it's supposed to be some magic bullet and something unique and individual, blah, blah. And they also approach it as the fact that it is information. The true magic of emotional intelligence is that we actually do something about it. That we actually become credible. We become more trustworthy. We are more consistent in our behaviors. So if you're looking at it only from an information standpoint, like even the models I talked about this morning, we've all heard of vision, mission, values, and all that. But when you plug it into experience and you plug it into the creation of people within an organization to create their own model, it has some legs and it has an energetic magnetism to it. So the information you will take away this afternoon will help you align better with internal and external customers verbally and non-verbally. We also will use language in tandem with that. We know that we use language to make a connection with people and to inform. But if she and I were having a conversation, in that same 5 minutes that we had that conversation, if we were also able to inform but to inspire and encourage, now we have maximized the time we have together, and it creates that energetic magnetism. It creates momentum as well as communication on information. Does that make sense? So we're going to look at that. Now, let's look at what's at stake. In a study by the U.S. workforce, they said that most people spend 60% preparing for performance reviews. 40% is discretionary time and energy and effort. What are we doing to embrace that energy and effort that we have? So what we're looking to do as leaders and workers is to engage other people's choice of emotional energy and effort. What does that look like? What would be the emotional energy of people? What's someone's emotional energy? Guess. Their mood? Certainly their attitude. Okay. What else?
Their enthusiasm for different projects?
Their enthusiasm, absolutely. Enthusiasm, the fire that burns within. Enthusiasm. Okay? Okay. Passion, engagement. Okay? Energy, enthusiasm. And there is an energy. I mean, it's an energetic. Effort, I hear from managers, leaders all the time. I just wish I could get my folks to care as much as I care. And I now will go back and plug in the circuit from this morning. I'm going to pause here, take a step to the side as an example. Part of my other eclectic past was I used to write for American Greetings. I like creative stuff. And I created a product for kids. It was called a Tuck Me In Star. And it was a set of questions that parents could ask at bedtime that helped to bring connection to kids. I had the sayings run off. And they kept screwing it up, put it bluntly. Finally, it dawned on me, they don't get it. So I brought in the product. We had a totally different experience because they now understood what they were contributing to. They were then invested. And what was maybe 60% effort became 80% effort. Plug in the circuit like we did this morning. So we are looking at the energy, people's willingness to stay late. Not to say that that's what we're looking for, but I mean that you know how you're really jazzed about something and you do want to finish it, you want to see what the outcome is, you have that kind of investment. So we're looking for the investment and the energy. Now, I would like, I'm going to ask, here, you all, why don't you come up here with your papers and your handout. Okay, I need one more person. Bring your hand out, please, in your book. And we're on page 3. Okay, so I would, right here, okay. And I would like you to read the first, you to read the second, okay. You to read the third, and you to read the fourth at the top of the page. So let us read. These folks are going to give some statistics because I want you to look up here. There are my co-presenters right now. So, yes, yay, yay. So look at retain people. Do we agree that that's something we want to do? Tap people potential. Keep customers and have a team that works. Oh, hark, oh, hark. Okay, so let us look at some statistics. You're on.
Okay, 75% of the reasons career get derailed is due to inability to manage change, deal with people, and handle conflict.
People skills. Next.
Tap people potential. Nationwide survey, 50,000 people quit jobs every day. 85% report they could work more productively. Over half say they could double their productivity if wanted to.
Let's pause and read that last phrase is critical.
If
Please.
Wanted to.
If they wanted to. Even read it the whole thing again.
Over half say they could double their productivity if wanted to.
Okay.
EQ developmental work helps people tap this potential by creating workplace values and attitudes that engage employees' mind and hearts.
Good. Next. I'm standing next to you because I have the mic. Okay, go on.
Keep customers. Customers leave due to 15% quality, 15% lower price, 70% due to lack of contact and individual attention.
How many of you would agree to that? Okay. When was the last time you switched vendors? Often it is because of the service. It can be because of the price. I'm not taking price out of it. It is important. But if you had, how much do you put up with at some point? And you're on last.
Teamwork. A Yale study indicates that teams which trust enough to allow people to share talents and support can be smarter than the sum of their members' talents, while teams that lack those EQ-related qualities are often dumber than their members' combined IQ or abilities.
Mm-hmm. True. Give them a round of applause. Didn't they do a nice job? Yay, thank you. Okay. So you do have a handout. You will be getting additional handouts, and we'll be following along with this. So let us look. We did experience in the morning the motivation. Frankly, I was expecting something a little bit more sophisticated. And so you have resignation and apathy. What is the difference between resignation and apathy? Any guesses?
In resignation, you care, but you just can't do anything about it. And in apathy, you don't even care to do anything about it.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. We obviously, let's tie in resignation and apathy to the person that read that over half the folks could double their productivity if they wanted to. In Love and Profit, and the book Love and Profit, and James Autry, and he says we can buy people's back, we can buy their hand, but we cannot buy their spirit. That is something they choose to give us. And that is the difference then between commitment and compliance. We can get someone to follow us, and sometimes that's a huge jump, by the way. Or we can get commitment, which means they're really on board and we have that engaged energy and effort. So the qualities we're looking at here in its application, for today, has to do with then increasing the motivation. This is Dr. Robert Cooper's definition of emotional intelligence. He says that emotional intelligence is the power, acumen, and wisdom of emotions as a source of energy, information, trust, drive, connectivity, initiative, and creativity. Now, here's the scoop. Here's real life. The baby throws up on your top. Yes, the baby throws up on your top. You got a spot on your tie. Someone cuts you off in the lane coming to work and you have sign language. You can't find the parking place, all these things, and you're supposed to come into work, and I don't know, you guys are too young to probably remember Loretta Young, but she would come in and she would go, "Hi." And we're supposed to have this presentation like nothing else happened. The fact is that we do have emotions that affect our productivity. A lot of people have a limiting view of emotion, and that's mainly because we have not learned to deal with it. So the way people manage emotions is to stuff the stuff and not use the juice of the emotions, the knowledge of the emotions, to move forward. The capacity model of emotion is to use the information it provides and then consciously make a choice on how to use it. But if you totally negate it, plug it back into that model, task plus emotion. If you totally cut it off, then you've cut yourself off from a portion that could be useful. But don't take my word for it. Let's look at this story. This is a Special Olympics. It's an outside track event. The stands are filled with people, and there are kids that are running a race. This may be off camera a little bit, I'll try to. They're running a race, they're getting ready, running a race, the gun goes off, they get up, they start running down the line, running down the track, and all of a sudden you hear a wail and a kid falls flat on his face. And this girl goes, "Oh my gosh, Johnny, what happened to you?" And she goes over and she dusts him off and she goes, "You guys have to stop. Johnny got hurt. We have to come back and help him." So the kids come back over. They all get around him. You can hear the buzz of the crowd. And they're dusting him off. They lift him up. And then they get in a huddle. And again, you can hear the buzz of a crowd. Then they decide this is something they're going to do. They break from the huddle. They form a horizontal line like this. They go arm and arm, and they go across the finish line together. And the crowd erupts in applause. Take 3 minutes in your group to discuss how this definition applies to that story. And emotion was a source of information, trust, creativity, and drive. Go on. Have a conversation. So how is that story an example of the definition, energy, information, trust, drive, and creativity? And that definition is on page, what page is that? I can't read it. 3. Okay, pause. So the reason why I'm using this is to define it because they're words on a page. But what does it look like? Remember, that's one of the questions I challenge you to ask, both as a leader, and we are all leaders, we lead from where we are, is when we explain something to someone, what does that look like? Because people need to know what it's looked like to follow it. So in this case, how was emotion, and I'll ask for volunteers by raising of hand just because it's easier to accommodate the comments. How was emotion a source of energy in this particular example, story that I gave? Yes?
Well, what we saw was, any type of sporting event, energy and emotions are always high because you're competing, but they took a moment and they stopped and they collaborated and they listened and they moved on with the new addition and and it was very creative, and they took initiative together and moved forward.
Okay, all right. It was not an outcome that necessarily someone would take, okay? And you're laughing, is it?
It's okay. I just quoted a Vanilla Ice song from 1992.
Oh, I see, okay. All right, so now I'm going to skip information a minute. I'm going to go to trust and connection. Give me an example in the story of trust, how emotion helped to generate trust and connection. Yes?
The person that called everyone back, something about her, they trusted her enough to do what she said.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. Why do you think they trusted her? Why did they trust her?
Well, had a connection probably before to her.
Mm-hmm. They could have had a connection before to her, but then again, they could have come from different schools. They may not have known each other. But there was a connection. What is the connection?
She took a big
That
risk.
was one that the people went down.
Somebody went down. Right. They certainly, what is the emotion, y'all? Empathy. Right. Empathy. One of us went down. Now, let's go back and plug in the circuit from this morning. What gives our voice a sense of command, that we believe enough in what we're saying that people hear it in the tone of our voice? My father, when he was when he was alive, would say to my girls or kids, and he would say, very quietly, I need you to stop that now. They stopped immediately. Meanwhile, the mothers are going, no, you've got to stop that. They don't listen. Because with every fiber of his being, he meant it. She meant it because she felt compassion, and I believe that it might have been in the tone, but he definitely had the connection. All right, now, what drove the initiative? What drove the initiative? Yes, sir. Again.
Honestly, and I think this speaks to companies, like if you've ever been to the Special Olympics, like this type of environment is built into it, of
Yes.
working together, of caring about everyone else and making
Right.
sure everyone finishes, making sure everyone
Right.
enjoys themselves.
Right.
So I think there's this individual leap and initiative, but I think more than anything in this situation with the Special Olympics, it's the environment that it happened in that really helps.
Yes. How is that like teamwork?
I think that's like any company. Like if you have supportive management, if you have a healthy environment, if
Right.
you're not always backbiting and things like that, this type of ability to work together and be creative and take initiative is going to be much easier than if you're in a hostile or just, terrible environment.
Right. And in the statistic we had, the statistic was, by Yale's study, that the teams which trust enough to allow people to share talents and supports can be smarter than the sum of the members' talents. These folks are challenged. They came up with a brilliant solution. They all won. Okay? Now, it was creative. All right? Now, I'm not a Miss Mary Sunshine. I understand that there are times when we just do have to win. We do have to be productive. And there are times when we have to decide when to hold them, when to let them go, when to give someone extra time, when not. But he is correct. In order to build, there's short-term and long-term as far as building trust. But the investment that these folks made long-term with a longer view is far more winning attitude than a specific let's win in the moment. Now, I'm going to go back to information. This is what's critical. It's called emotional intelligence. How is emotion, forget the story, how in your life is emotion a source of information?
Well, information drives your emotion, depending on what information you get.
Nice and loud so they can hear you.
I just forgot what.
Information drives.
Well, emotion is driven by which information you get. And depending on what information you do get, that depends on which emotion you may have.
Okay, what we think affects how we feel. Okay, that is true. Okay, if I'm at a team meeting here, and there are a bunch of people all around the table, what information do I get that lets me know who's with me and who's against me? What information do I get?
Body language, you're reading their emotions.
Right. And the fact is that our body language comes up in micro and macro expressions on our face and our body language. Why do you move a certain way? There are some that are voluntary and some that are involuntary, and we may want to control it, but sometimes it's just not controllable because it comes from how we think and feel. Here's the critical piece. If you cut off emotion totally, you are cutting off part of the information you can get. If I sit there and I shake her hand and I say, boy, she walks like a duck, she talks like a duck, and she sounds and feels to me like a duck. But if I shake her hand and my stomach turns, something, like maybe not even define it, and I say she walks like a duck, she talks like a duck, but I really don't think she's a duck, then I can choose my next actions until I'm looking at what's real. Okay, so we do this. So this is one definition. This is another definition that you have on page 3. And it is fill in the blank. Let me give you the fill in the blanks, and then we're going to go forward. This is... Sorry, I don't know what I did. This is Daniel Goleman's definition. And emotional intelligence is a capacity at work for self-awareness. And it's recognizing feelings and behaviors. Okay? Self-expression, the ability to share emotion. Let me share with you, and we're going to practice this at the end of today. We're going to look at communication that expresses emotion and fact that has a greater advantage for people to engage in what we're saying than disengage. Self-regulation. How do we command our emotions so we don't turn into a screaming Mimi? Self-motivation. How do we keep on keeping on without setbacks? Or how we manage setbacks. And empathy, putting ourselves in the shoes of other people, looking at how they feel. And effective relationships, how can we build with rapport and collaboration is the fill-in. So this is what we are looking for as far as building emotional intelligence. Now, here's what I'd like you to do. You're in your groups, and I would like you to just to prove it to ourselves. One of the pieces of emotional intelligence is to reference ourselves, reference our own wisdom, reference our own experience. And it says that your own experience is worth something. So what I would like you to think about in page 4 is I want you to think of someone in your life who has positively influenced you. They can be a mentor, they could be a church person, they could be a grandfather, a father, they could be a mother, a daughter, they could be a kid, they could be somebody who made an influence and an impact on you. I want you to answer 2 questions. What behaviors did they demonstrate, and how did you feel in their presence? What behaviors did they demonstrate, and how did you feel in their presence? So this is from your own life. When people affected you, made a difference in your life, what was it about them that came through as being something that affected you? Please give yourself a couple of minutes to think about it, and then I would like one person from your group to share a story to your group. I would like someone in your group, and please tell a real story. It actually happened to you. And pick one person in your group to share the story. What was the situation? What behaviors did they demonstrate? And how did you feel in their presence? Go ahead and begin in your group and have a conversation, please. Okay, pause. Just to give one quality, how I'm going to just debrief this is I'm going to go to each table, and from the story that was given, and they could be repetitive characteristics, but from the stories that were given, what is a behavior that the person that mentored or made a difference demonstrated? So over here, what one behavior would you pick out of the story that you told?
You're looking right at me. Did you know it was me?
Yes, I did. I saw you talk.
She's a person that goes around doing good, kind acts for people all the time, that quietly, no one knows. She's not out to have anyone even find out. I find out. But
No,
I've
and
been the recipient of some of her kindnesses, and
right.
you know, we've been friends for a long, long time,
Right.
and I just would really
Kind, and the fact that good deeds to do the deed versus to be seen to do the deed. Okay? How about over here? What was one quality you'd pick up?
Being calm in highly stressful situations.
Being calm in highly stressful situations. Over here.
Self-control.
Self-control or regulation. Over here, what was one quality?
Professionalism?
Professionalism. And of course, we could define that again. But yes, how about over here? Quality to the person you chose. Trusting. What did that look like? Yeah. Listening and encouraging. Okay. How about over here?
We did empowering, like giving power to do things, projects, listen.
Okay. Empowering, turning the power over to someone. Now, I know you said how you felt in the presence. Some of you may be in leadership roles, some of you not, but you certainly are in a situation where you interact with people. Without any comment, but your comment to the question I'm asking, go around your table, and the question I'm asking, and this is self-awareness, which is one of the critical elements of emotional intelligence. How do you feel in the present? How do you think people feel in your presence? You're allowed 4 words. Okay, folks, pause a minute. Why is it important to know how people might feel in your presence? Why?
That gives you the tool to know how to
Okay, here it gives you information. It gives you information on knowing how you can either work to strengthen the strengths or to work to take care of the barriers that stand between you and someone else. What else? What other benefit is there in knowing what? People don't ask that question. They often operate from self-orientation. One of the critical elements to trust is self-orientation. How much self do you have in your equation of trust? Is it focused on you? What I hear from new leaders is, well, that's just the way I am. They're just going to have to take me or leave me. Okay, and so the focus is not on the other person. The focus is on me. Okay? So, I asked to ask you that, how do people feel in your presence? Now, with that said, we're not out to run a popularity contest and expect that everyone likes you, but I invite you to read the book, The Likability Factor by Sanders. And he speaks to specific qualities because kids in school do better with teachers they like. And usually likability, here's the irony, but it wouldn't surprise you, is based on, do they think you care about them? Okay? So that's why that is significant. Okay, so here's the scoop. We're moving from a point of leadership from authority, command, and control. And let me see where I have in your piece. On page 3? Page 3 in the middle. From authority, command, and control to trust, ingenuity, and influence. If 50,000 people quit work every day, and one of the reasons is because they don't feel their work is valued, if 40% is discretionary effort, how do we engage that discretionary effort? And the fact is, we do not do it with a ball bat. We can get compliance. Here, we're going to get commitment. So what we're looking at is how we can move toward the other. The last part of this part, because I'm going to edit because of our time and stuff, we're going to go into the interpersonal skills style, but I do want you to pay attention. I think it's an important perspective. Is on page 5 is power brokerage. Okay. And if you look, I'm sorry, I'm now interjecting. Please look up here a minute, then we'll look down. Okay. Here's a definition by Dr. Robert Cooper of personal leadership. And his definition is you lead from where you are. That means we're all leaders. We look to make a difference, but most importantly, we can achieve priority results through people. Green is his last name. I invite you to look up the work of Green, Charles Green, and he has a whole thing on becoming a trusted advisor. It's excellent material. And in it, what he talks about is that people spend so much time, or are you a leader and are you a manager? He goes, what bunk? He said, we're here to get priority results achieved through people. That's what leadership has always been. It is getting stuff done through people. So today, what we're looking at, and even in the morning, is how can we do that? How can we engage that discretionary effort and energy? How can we engage people? Because, I love this phrase, it is not how smart you are, it is how you are smart. Now, power brokerage on page 5. Let's look at the definition, and I'm going to have over here this gal right here in the stripe. If you could read under power brokerage, if you could read power reducer for me, nice and loud. Could you read the definition? Yeah. No, you. I'm sorry.
One of the gain.
Nice and loud.
One of the gain, minimizing or reducing power by using an overabundance of deferring statements, edges, and softeners. fueled by a need to be liked and accepted.
Okay. A power reducer is one of the gang needing to be liked and accepted. Okay? And what I'm going to offer for young leaders is that often what happens is you've been buddy-buddy with these folks and now you're leading them. So one of the pitfalls is that you fall into that category as you're a power reducer. How about reading for me power raiser? Go ahead.
Use exclusive language, directives, and commands, and parental language when speaking. Talking and speaking with little or no awareness of their impact on others.
Okay, so power raiser is you're actually misusing power. It is positional power. I'm the leader, do as I say. I'm the leader, tough shoot. Just do it. Okay? That's power raiser. Now, how about over here? Why don't you read power respecter?
Seek to connect and uses language of inclusion and cooperation.
Okay. What I'm going to ask you, and this is all self-awareness. Self-awareness is critical to good leadership. Without it, you do not grow. If you think you've already reached your pinnacle, if you think there's nothing else to learn, if you think that it's stagnant, you will be stagnant. And I know a lot of leaders who are dinosaurs. So do we continue to grow? Now, I'm going to ask you, what is your, I'm going to use a technological term, what is your default position? What do you most normally go to? Are you a power reducer? Are you a power raiser or a power respecter? Let me give you an example of a power reducer. This was an example given by one of your library folks. He was a director, I think he was a director. He said, what happens to me is I go to conferences, and he said, what kicks in for me is wanting to be liked. So I go to a conference, he says, and I let everyone else say something, and I rob them. And he says, I don't mean to sound conceited, but he said, like everyone else, I have something to give, you know, some experience. And then I end up not really giving them the full benefit of what I can offer. So as a power reducer, what he does is play more of a game of letting everyone else, you know what I'm saying? He does not assert himself in what he can give and offer. He has a tendency to take a back seat and hardly not say anything and doesn't really contribute to the conversation. So that's the power reducer. The power raiser would be someone that always has the floor, cuts you off as you're speaking, always says their way is the right way, always knows the answer, never's wrong. That's a power raiser. Okay? Does that make sense? So how many of you think you're all three? Anyone think you're all three? Okay. At times, and I would say probably so. Just take 2 minutes in your group, go around the circle, and share whether you think you're a power, by and large, most of the time, a power reducer, a raiser, or a respecter. Go ahead and share. Okay, let's pause a minute. Now what I would like you to look at and plug this in, it doesn't do, the first step is awareness. The second step is what are you going to do with it? Okay? And the bottom line is you can't change it if you can't see it. So if you see it and you know that's your natural default position, like to be a power reducer, here's my recommendation of how you change it. And I will show you this page. We're not going to take the time now, but it is, you have information to share later, is look on page 6 at the top. And what I coach people to do is to do this. Think of reoccurring situations where you automatically go into that default position. What is one behavior you can choose to embrace that would help you start moving into change, the power reducer, because What kinds of things can happen that's not to your advantage if you express yourself as a power reducer?
You end up with all the work, nobody else does it.
Exactly. That's number one. What else happens? What happens if you're a power reducer?
People lose confidence in you.
People lose confidence in you because you're not making a decision. What else? You get to, and let me, and we're going to own that. So the concept is, I let people take advantage of me. Yes, I let people take advantage of me because I can be a power reducer. Yeah, I want people to get along, you know, all this. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But people do expect you to make decisions and to draw the line in the sand, etc. So good feedback. What else? Yes?
I think if someone will just step up and start making the decisions for you that aren't going to be so the wrong person.
Right. And here's what happens. There's a double-fold whammy. If you let people, she's absolutely right. You create a gap. People will move in and take advantage of that gap. And there will be people that start taking lead. Then what happens is the power reducer doesn't say anything, but begins to resent it. Then the power reducer resents it, which makes them feel angry. It comes out sideways, and it can be toxic in a whole work environment, not only within you, but within other people. If you're a power raiser, here's the seduction of a power raiser. For a while, people are going to listen because they're afraid of you. They're intimidated. But in the long run, are they giving their best? And the answer is no, because how they rebel? Well, I'll do this because you asked me, but if you think I'm going to do anything more, not. So, I ask you to think about it. Which one is going to engage people more, and which one is going to dissuade people? Okay, let's everyone stand. It's warm. Yes, it's very warm. We just had pasta. Okay, it was delicious. By the way, let's give them a round of applause. They have done a nice job of planning and everything else. Okay. I have a holistic health background, but this is something for when. Here's the scoop. This is an exercise you can do. When your energy dwanes, there's usually 3 reasons. 1, you don't have enough oxygen. Number 2, you're dehydrated. Number 3, you lose your focus. You have focused too long at a task. Did you know that if you focus too long at a task, for longer than 30 minutes, intense focus, that the time that it takes you to solve problems can increase up to 500%. And we all know that when we have something we've had in our hand, we put it down on our desk, and we then get a phone call, and we look and we cannot find that thing we just put on our desk because we are so constricted with stress, we do not see what's in front of us. We go to the John, we come back, and there it is in plain sight. Raise your hands if you've had that experience, okay? All right, hands above your head. You're focusing on your rib cage going up and out. You're focusing on getting a quart of that oxygen at the diaphragmatic level. So you're going to go 1, it's the rib cage that goes up and out. 1 like a bellow. 2, 3, 4, arms down, your body will automatically breathe. You might even feel a tingle. Oh my gosh, there's energy and there's oxygen. Let's try it again. And 1, 2, 3, 4, arms down. Okay, hands out like this. Tense, 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 tense. Carpal tunnel. Okay. Once again, arms here, here, carpal tunnel. Okay, I'm running around with my head cut off. How often do you hear that? Fact is, you are. Why? Because you are where your mind is. If your mind is all here, you are not together. Hands out to your side. Take it above your head. Clasp your hand. Focus on your hands and bring your consciousness into your body. Focusing on where your hands are and end at your belly button, or Chinese would say dantian. Okay? It does bring you into your body. You'll go, oh. Okay? All right. Good. One other thing, you get tight necks and shoulders because the muscle in between your wings here gets tight. Put your hand in front of you. A hand, doesn't matter. This hand is here. Don't stretch your arms. Stretch the muscles in between your shoulder blades. Stretch. Okay, here. Stretch. Okay. Shake, 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 shake. Okay. Come. Loud. Down. Loud. Sit, please. Let's look on page 8. And here's an interpersonal skill inventory, and here's what I'd like you to do. You're going to be going into groups. And I would like you to answer this inventory as though you were at work, not at home. People say, do you want me to answer this as I am at home or work? And I'm going to say to you, are you schizophrenic? Because what we're looking at is we're looking at trying to do a continuity and about how we are at home and work. This is an interpersonal skill style. The interpersonal skill style is about our communication style. What this information will tell us is, remember you had a definition, one definition by Goleman of emotional intelligence was social competency. And the social competency was how you can get along better with others, collaborate, and get things done through people. That is the association to this. So from this interpersonal skill style, we are going to look at how we can arrange our style to adapt it to get more collaboration and cooperation from other people. So if you look at the example on page 8, you will see that you are to put a number 4 by the adjective that is most like you at work. Then a 3, then a 2, and then a 1. So in the example that you have here, let's look at the first line. It goes from left to right. You have directing, orchestrating, steady, and exacting. Directing is that you like to direct things, take initiative. If you were sitting at a table, within 10 minutes, you'd probably take over the conversation. You like to direct and control, and you are good at taking initiative. If you're orchestrating, you're good at getting groups together, getting people together, getting input of people, like an orchestrator leader orchestrates the different instruments to a harmony. Steady is you like consistency. You like to know what to expect. And exacting, everything has a purpose, everything has a place, dot the I's, cross the T's, very exacting, detail-oriented. That is a safe way to orient life. Everyone together, if you would, going from left to right, put a 4 by the descriptor that's most like you. Directing, orchestrating, steady, or exacting. Put a 4 by the one that's most like you. Then put a 3, then a 2, and then a 1. We're on page 8. Now pause a minute before you folks, before you, which we do, I'm going to get this done, is this. Answer it as you are now. Don't answer it as you would like to be someday. Or, this is really important, this is growth. I've known so many families, like I have twin daughters. So people try to differentiate kids, right? So, oh, she's the smart one. She's the social one. He's the intellect. She's the this, right? And what happens is we have labels put on us, and then we carry those labels with us for a while until we wake up one day and we realize that those labels don't apply to us anymore. So answer it as you are now, not as you would like to be, and not as someone told you you are. The two little delineations here, definitions. Restrained is if you hold back, you hold in, you may not say something, you wait for other people to say it, and then you'll say something when you have something to say. Restrained, you withhold, you're moving in. The other one is charming. In this case, we're going to take it as something positive. It's second to the last one in the second row from the bottom. Charming. We're going to look at that as a positive, that someone has an ability to get along well with other people and to appear charming to them. The other one that people ask me about is deliberate. And deliberate is to move forward on purpose. You're very deliberate. I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this. Please fill it out from top to bottom, going from left to right, and put a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1 in each row, left to right. Do it as quickly as possible. Don't overthink it, and look at it from how you are mainly at work. So each line going from left to right will have a 4, 3, 2, 1. When you are done, add up your points vertically. Add up all your points under directing, all your points under orchestrating, all your points under steady, and all your points under exacting. And put it in the total box, please. And no, I do not have calculators for us all. The good news about these interpersonal skill inventories is it's helpful for in your personal life as well as in your professional life, because it has to do with you and your relationship to other people. And it also has to do with you and your relationship to yourself. What can you do behavior-wise in approaching people that helps to be collaborative? Okay. All right. I would like you to circle your highest score. Circle your highest score at the bottom. And by the way, your scores, some people will have scores that are almost all the same, 1 or 2 points. Other people are going to have scores that are like 32 and 18. Other people are going to have, you can have it soup to nuts. There's no one right way. But first, in order to go through this process and give you information you can use, I'd like you to circle your highest score. I then like you to put a check mark by the score that's the second highest. Now, who has ties? Okay, what is yours tied? The secondary or primary one? The secondary. Oh, and what are your two? Okay, and pause a moment. I haven't told you what they are, have I? Directing is a style. Orchestrating is a style. Steady and exacting are the 4 styles. So if your highest score was under the first column on the left, you have a primary style of directing. If your secondary style was a steady, you have a secondary second highest number. Your secondary style is steady, and we're going to look at what that means. So in your case, could you tell me what your 2 styles are tied with?
The directing and steady.
What's your primary?
Orchestrating.
And give me the other 2 again.
Directing and steady.
My sense is, and I could be off, it's directing. However, I'm going to have you go into a group and you'll be able to tell whether you fit or you don't fit. Okay? All right. Okay. So let us look. Here you are. I'm going to go back to this. You are going to be looking at How do you approach, you're managing a team. How can you maximize each gift from your team, and how do you approach them in a way they're going to hear you? So you're going to look at how people approach work. Critical, what is their motivation? I often say, I could have labeled this, why can't everyone be just like me? Because we're great at saying, oh, let's accept diversity until the rubber meets the road, and then we're saying on an everyday basis, why would you do that? How would you handle it that way? What their needs are. Pace. I'm going to give you an example of pace. I was married before. My ex and I were in the car, and there was a car way down the road. It was a stop sign, not a stop signal, stop sign. And we were sitting there, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited for that car way down there to come across the thing before we took off. My foot is on an imaginary gas pedal, and I am ready to go zoom through the intersection. Pace. How fast do you move? How fast do you approach people? It can be irritating. How do people handle conflict, sooner or later? Can you handle conflict? Are you willing to confront? And decision making, and do you have a tendency to be more people or task oriented? So let's keep this in mind. This is not a test, it's a map. No one style is better than another. You need all styles in an organization. You'll find out why. We all have all styles within us, and the goal is to become flexible and to use those styles. Knowledge of your style will teach you how to adapt to someone else's style. And it takes, again, all styles to have a successful organization. This was cut off because of it being transferred here. But I would like you to turn to the next page. I would like you to circle, this is information, you can circle your highest score on this page. On the map that you have on page 9, are you high directive, orchestrating, exacting, or steady? Circle the highest, put a check mark by the second highest so you can look at it. Are we all together on page 9? Okay? Now, let's look at on page 9 is the map, and there is a description of steady, orchestrating, exacting, and directive. Look up here a moment, please. Okay. I first want you to look at assertive and less assertive. Go above the line. Directing and orchestrating have a tendency to be more assertive. What does that mean? That means that in any given situation, they have a tendency to take action quicker than the other two styles. So if you are directing or orchestrating, and it also pace, you move faster. Exacting and steady have a tendency to be less assertive. And here's what that looks like. That means that in a team meeting, you may sit back and listen to everyone's feedback and then give feedback when you see and assess what everyone is saying. Directing simply can open mouth and insert foot because they're sure they're right and they know they're right, okay? Orchestrating likes to express their ideas and their concepts and all that. And so you have that assertiveness. The critical piece to this is task and relationship. Directing and exacting happen to be more task focused. What does that look like? That looks like if you received a call, and maybe it'd be a poor example, but you have a tendency to finish a task before you attend to people. So if someone calls in the afternoon and you're on a task, you're much more likely to say, you know, I'm working on this task and I just have to get this done and I'll call you back later. Here's what relation people might do. Not always, but a lot of the time. They focus on relationships. So they will go ahead and have conversation with you. In the meantime, their stomach is turning because they have this task they know they need to complete, but they really think that they want, should talk with you, must, she's shaking her head, must talk with you, etc. And so what happens is they spend the time to talk with you. When they hang up the phone, then they go, oh my God, I'm going to have to spend all this time to make up for all the time that I spent. And that's a choice, your choice. So the other piece I want you to add that is not on your handout is where you have assertive, put responsive as well. Directing and orchestrating have a tendency to be more responsive. Exacting and steady have a tendency to be less responsive. So what does that look like? Look up here, body language. People say to me if I'm in a group like her, and I said, how would you know that I'm more directing or whatever? You show it in your body language. Directing and orchestrating, these are usually, here's the pace. Directing has a tendency to speak faster. Directing has a tendency to say, okay, we're going to do A, we're going to do B, we're going to do C. Watch in the coming week, okay? Orchestrating has a tendency to be very flamboyant, has a tendency often to be dramatic. Can you tell which style I am? And you have a tendency to be that way, and that's orchestrating. Responsiveness means their face shows, their body language shows, they have a responsiveness to what you say. Here's the negative. The positive, they tell their story well. They're enthusiastic. The negative is they turn people off because some people are uncomfortable with that. But let's go to the bottom end of the spectrum when I say of responsiveness. Exacting and steady, let me show you an example. Here's directing. I'm really excited about this project because I think we can really accomplish a lot. Orchestrating. Oh, it'll be just so good to get everyone together and we can be so excited to get it finished and it will look so good to other people. Steady. Well, I think it's great that we're going to be working it as a team, and I just hope that everyone else likes it as well. Exacting. Have we measured how we're going to consider this to be a success? Okay. So that is the levels of responsiveness, and here's the caveat over here. People think because exacting does not show it on your face, you don't care. They think you do not care because you don't show it on your face. I had a person who took my class at NASA. He was a manager, and he was in the class because none of the people that he managed thought that he cared. And it was body language mostly because you would ask him a question and he would be like this. There's nothing wrong. It's just, what message are you sending? What message do you want to send, and what message are you sending? Now, let us look at motivation. People can be turned off by directive people because they can come across brash and abrupt. But look at what their motivation is to get things done and get outcome. A directing person in a class like this is, okay, I read all 4 styles, I'm done. I read them. I get it. That's it. I don't have to talk about it. Okay? Orchestrating is to be appreciated. They're really good at reading people. They're really good at motivation. They're really good at inspiring and being intuitive. And therefore, they care what other people think because that's where they get their energy. Exacting is systematic language, being right, and steady is to get along. So look at the qualities of all of them and then look at how they use time. Directing is time is money and accomplishment. Did we accomplish anything? Orchestrating, they have a tendency to be undisciplined with time, but yet, because what's important to them is people. Exacting, they're very disciplined in time, and you better not be late, and they have to cross the T's and dot the I's. And steadies, they want to have time to get acquainted, to get along. So we're going to learn how we can approach these different styles. Now, what I would like you to do is, how many people are directing? Raise your hands, please. Ah, okay. So, directing folks, you three, I'm going to have you come over here with your chairs, and I'm going to put you over here. Actually, see those chairs behind there? Why don't you use those 3 chairs? Bring your paper, and I'm going to give you an assignment. All 3 directing, go back here, please. Okay? At those chairs back there, and make a little circle. Okay? How many are orchestrating? High style orchestrating. Cool. Okay, so let's all orchestrating go in that table because they have 3 of them. So bring your stuff over there. Raise your hand, orchestrating. Okay, how many are exacting? How many are exacting? Or exacting, please come over to this table. Steadies, right through. How many? All the rest of you are steadies? Okay, let's fill these 2 tables first. Okay, steadies here. Okay, folks, time, please. Here's your assignment. Here's your assignment. And here's how we're going to work this. I am going to have, this is an opportunity because you are emerging leaders. You often have to present to groups. You certainly have to present one-on-one. So what do you know about a style that can help you present in a way that people are going to listen? Now, if you look at this up here, you will see that exacting are opposite steady, and exacting is opposite orchestrating, and directing is opposite steady. What does that mean? Directing has the hardest time adapting its style to steady. Directing is high task and also initiative. Steadies are high people and not as assertive. Steadies are sensitive. Directors don't need any of that jazz, traditionally. Therefore, directing can step on the toes of steadies, and steadies can go paralyzed in the presence of directing and feel hurt. So, what I'm going to offer is, let's pass these out. Okay, here's what I'd like you to do. And someone asked me, this is a very typical, well, it's not typical actually. You guys, pause please. You have the tradition, usually the most 61, this is critical, 61% of the population are steady. They are like consistency, don't rock the boat. Think of the time that it takes organizations to change. 61% of the population, okay? Next is orchestrating. Next is directing, and then exacting. So, what's interesting is that this is a pretty good shape up, but what we're going to learn today is how we can adapt our styles because you have specific information in your handout. But instead of doing my traditional thing, I wanted it to be more interactive with this group because I knew it was in the afternoon. So, here's your assignment. This is orchestrating. Okay, let me look at my assignment here. The assignment is, each of you your group has an assignment. You are to do what the assignment says and adapt your style to the hardest style for you to adapt to. So for instance, orchestrating says you are attempting to gain buy-in from a trustee board that consists of exacting styles. The benefits of expanding a children's service in your library, or make it up. How would you state your premise? What kind of approach would you use that would appeal to them? How do you find that information? For everyone, pay attention to this because you are going to find the information in exactly the same place. Page 9 tells you the highlights of the styles. Page 10 is a wonderful dashboard to the motivation, the expression, their use of time, their styles and needs. Page 11 is invaluable. Page 11 in the 2 columns is what you can do to adapt to that style. So orchestrating here is supposed to adapt to exacting. You would go back to exacting and look at these things about what you can do to adapt to it. Do you see where I'm going? Okay. Now, let's look at exacting. Who's exacting? Over here? Where's exacting? Over here? Exacting, your assignment is you're attempting to persuade orchestrating to be on a united campaign task. What would you say to them to appeal to how they would like to receive the information? What fears or concerns might they have being that type, and how would you put them to ease? Directing, your assignment is to present to a study group, and you are to present some kind of change, make it up, in schedule, routine, or policy. How could you present it to them that would best help them accept that change? And studies, you are to communicate to directing, and you are attending a community gathering representing your library, and this group you're presenting to is a mover and shaker, and you're asked to take 3 minutes to say a few words about your library. How would you say it that it would relate to the directing style that they would hear and understand you? Where, again, do you find the information? You find the information on pages 9 through 13. If you have any questions, I'm going to give you, it is now 25 till, I'm going to check in 10 minutes. Okay? Go ahead. Here's how we're going to work this, okay? We're going to have the directing go first because they like to go first. Then the rest of you, pause, please. The rest of you, please, turn to page 11. And the reason why you're turning to page 11 is that each of you will leave here today with 3 behaviors that you can adapt to each style. Specific, measurable behaviors you can adapt to each style. So we will do that once they're done. So directing, you can go ahead, but I'd like you to stand because this place eats. Oh, does he need a mic? Okay. All right, go ahead. And tell them the scenario so they get it.
We kind of get to make up our own solution. So we set up a scenario that we've seen growing antagonism in our staff meetings. And it's kind of an unhealthy environment. So we're making a decisive decision, but what we're trying to do is to especially compliment the steady individuals in our group. So we're giving advance notice that we're changing our meetings by sending out a memo saying we really want to make the environment more collegial and friendly by being agenda driven. So that's kind of the policy we're changing. It hasn't really been agenda driven in the past. And that we would like everyone's input on how to best set up this agenda and how much time people before meetings need to submit things, whether 24 hours, 48 hours, and so we're going to get people's input leading up to this first time that we use an agenda just through the intra-office email or whatnot. But that, and really let people know that, you know, we're grateful for everyone's service and their work, but the whole point of this is we really want to create a friendly environment, a calmer environment that really focuses on meeting etiquette so that we can remove the antagonism from the environment.
Pause. Why did you give them advance notice? Their target market is studies.
Yeah, and it gives them a chance to think about it. It also gives them a chance to give input. So instead of just doing this at the first meeting and being like, how do you guys want to do this? If we do it in a memo before the next staff meeting, it gives them time to
soak it in and actually think of how they want to make input. The other thing that has been suggested to us is, trying to answer some of the problems beforehand. We're like, we know there's always any other business, and this will be hard for some of the staff members. There's going to be some flexibility at the end of the meeting and go along that route by, presenting some of the problems and giving answers, hopefully spurring other input.
Okay, yeah. All right, well, first of all, give him a round of applause. Okay, so he has steady. Now turn to page 11. Look at the steady on the left-hand column. Then look at the middle two columns across from steady. Those two columns consists of behaviors that each one of us can adapt to a steady to be seen as more collaborative and create greater harmony. I would like each one of you individually, because it's an individual piece, circle 3 that you would do to adapt to steadies. 3 behaviors in those two columns on the side of steadies. What 3 behaviors will you practice to adapt your style better to get along with steady styles, which is 61% of the population? Go ahead and circle 3 behaviors. Okay. Now, orchestrating group, one person answer their one thing you circled for me.
Matt.
Make changes slowly. And that's perfect for orchestrating. And because orchestrating have a tendency to fly by the seat of their pants and say, oh, this is the greatest idea since sliced bread. Da-da-da-da-da, you're just going to love it. And steadies say, whoa, what's it going to look like? What's going to be required of me? What are the steps? Okay, one thing over here, directing, did you circle?
I did the same thing, actually.
Give me another one.
Show genuine interest.
Yes. You have best help when you enter a studies cubicle or office to say, gee, how are you doing today? How are things going? Lead with something personal, follow up with the content. Okay. Exacting over here. What one thing did you have circled?
I may have done, I put give advance notice, so I was on the left side.
Okay, you're absolutely right. Give advance notice for studies. Remember, they want to be consistent. They cannot feel that they are consistent if they're not given time to prepare. Okay. And you all, what one did you choose? How about you, sir? What did you choose?
Genuine interest would be my first.
Okay, what's your second?
Don't be domineering.
Don't be domineering. Yes, because they'll shut down. They'll just shut down like a clam. And guess what, y'all? Steady's gift is loyalty. They will think of it's so fascinating to me. Loyalty is consistency. You step on their toes, they'll just pull that sucker right out from under you. Or they may not tell you what you did to offend them. How are you doing? Fine. Fine. So they may forgive you, but consistently, they won't forget. So, okay, cool. All right, next, orchestrating. What was your presentation? What was your situation?
So our situation is we need to talk to the trustee board about expanding children's services. And with this group, we decided that the tactic to take would, first of all, we would need to have lots of statistics about our current children's services, the need for more children's services. We would not start with a joke.
No. Very good. And why would you, very good. Why would you not start with a joke?
Because their humor is not appropriate to that group for this situation. Not that they don't have a sense of humor. I didn't say, not that you don't have a sense of humor. It's just that in this situation, it would not be the best way of gaining your support.
They have a tendency, they do have exactings have a tendency, and you can't all group them together and make it this blanket statement, but humor is dicey for any of us. Because what's humorous to one person is not humorous to another, and if you are going, I teach speaking skills, and I don't recommend starting out with a joke because you never know, you can fall flat on your face easier, and then you're always working against it the whole time. Okay, go ahead.
We thought that the best way to get buy-in into this project would to have some kind of proven model that we could go by so that this worked at this library and we think it will work at our library too, rather than coming up with something that's totally out of the blue. We would have steps lined out as to how we were going to get this done.
Implement it.
We would have specific steps, and then we would have an evaluation process so that we could see how we were doing as we went through the steps.
Very good. That's
There would be a timeline and a deadline that we would give them and let them know that this is the timeline that we are going to do. We would thank them for their past support of a similar type of project and say, you know, you supported us on this and this is the result that we had, and we would like to do this, and we know we would like you to support us in this new project. We would let them know that we have assessed the risks that we would be taking and that we know what the risks are, and that, you know, so that they are aware of the risks and that they know that we have also thought about that. We would tell them about the benefit to the community, and again, mainly using statistics. We're not going to put up like pictures of children enjoying story time and how beautiful it all is and how special it makes everybody feel. That's not the approach that you want to take. You want to give them the facts and give them the statistics to make them want to support what you've got going on. And I think that's everything I wrote down.
Wow. Give them a round of applause. Okay. That is both of those good, perfect example of the knowledge of styles and how you use that knowledge to strategize outcomes. You can do it on a daily basis by practicing behaviors such as we're just going to do now. Or if it's a formal, presentation to a team, to a group. Now let's say you have a team and they have all 4 styles. What are you going to do to have not just stories but statistics, not just proof but this? Now I'm going to ask you all something. I can appreciate, based on the description, why you would say you would go to stats. How would you respond if they did have pictures of story time?
I'm the only one here with that. They're okay.
See? Okay, they're okay. Okay, so in other words, you're right on then. Okay, so everyone look on page 11. Find exacting, the bottom one, and everyone circle 3 behaviors you personally would adapt in a day-to-day situation to exacting. And think of the number of people on your team or that you know that would be exacting. What would you do to create greater harmony in the relationships with exactings? And I'm going to go to studies. I want one from each of your study groups, simply because you're people-oriented. If you look up here, and they're task-oriented. So, what one thing over here did you have circled?
I would build their credibility, or build your credibility by listing pros and cons and suggestions you make.
Right, they're critical thinkers, listing pros and cons. This group over here, what did you have circled? I'm sorry? How would you demonstrate respect? No, how would you demonstrate that you respected them?
In that scenario,
Yes.
that's a good question.
How can we demonstrate respect to you?
Asking questions.
Okay. Ask their opinion and ask questions. Okay? Directing, give me one. One. I'm sorry?
Be very clear about it.
Absolutely. Be very clear. And here's what's critical about exacting, y'all. They can be very definitive and they're very definitive because they're exact. All right? However, because they are exact, you can assume they do not need feedback. Wrong-o. They need feedback because they cannot be perfect if they don't know what the standard is. Correct, and they all shake their head, yes. So I learned that lesson consulting for a company, and they were trying to work with this tech folk who was definitely exacting. And, you know, no one was giving him any direction because they assumed he knew and he wanted the feedback. So he knew where he stood. Okay? Good job, good job. Okay, next we're going to go, I'm going to go to, with studies, we're going to go to this group first. So go ahead.
Okay, so our task was to take 3 minutes to describe the library to a group of mover and shakers. We assumed it was sort of like business entrepreneurial
Right,
types.
directing type people.
And so the style that we chose to present would be a PowerPoint where we would have an agenda of what we were going to talk about with lots of short bullet points.
Okay,
We talked about making sure that we asked for the information that they wanted to hear from us. We would make sure that we made a lot of eye contact. We would also talk about the changes and innovations the library was offering up, like new classes on social media and that kind of thing. But we would also stress that we were looking for new ideas and new partnerships from them, and hopefully engage them and have them have good ideas that they brought back to us.
okay, all right. So that's your approach to a directing movers and shakers. Yeah,
Did I forget anything?
okay, good. All right, good job. Over here, your group, your study, what did you come up with?
Yeah, so same scenario, obviously. We thought we'd open up by just saying that their time is valuable, and instead of taking 3 minutes, we're going to take 1.
Good.
As possible.
Okay.
And that everything that we didn't mention in this presentation would be in the well-organized handout packet that we distributed amongst everyone.
Okay.
We kind of put this presentation together with 3 kind of main bullet points that sort of maybe would appeal to someone who is a director. The first is like, let me talk about how the library makes us look good, right?
Okay.
It increases literacy, makes all your kids smarter than they really are, if that's even possible. Right?
Okay.
Keeps kids off the streets and makes us safer. And these kind of appeal to this like kind of accomplishment tendencies.
Good.
The second thing we'd say is, what do people like about what we do? And in these bullet points, kind of appealing to this idea of like process and efficiency. It's easy to find information. You can get in, you can get out, you get what you need, and real quick. And then we offer a wide variety of services without a big budget, right? Say something like that. All right. Third and final point, we talk about what we want to do. But we don't want to tell them what we want to do. We want to give them some options.
Right.
So maybe we want to have video games or classes on computer literacy, and then we could have things that kind of appeal to their like process-driven, goal-oriented nature. Business incubation labs, right? Innovation.
That's right.
3D printers, innovation labs, those kind
Right.
of things. And then just to kind of wrap it up, just basically say this project wouldn't be possible without you. Remind them that they are the movers and shakers, and then say that we really value your input. But because they often need to know, if I'm going to ask them for the input, they need to know what we want that from them and when they want it, or when we want it by. Say, well, we need something that we need to know about planning, construction, sustainability for these programs, and we love to hear from you by next week.
Okay, give them both a round of applause. Nice job. Okay. Both of them had, again, when you choose, you have to present a premise and you have to support the premise. How you support it should be in alignment to what their motivations are, in a language that is aligned to what they understand. Then you have, if you are aligned with me, you're probably a lot like me, and I can get behind you. And that's where it comes. So everyone, look at directing and look at 3 things you would do to adapt your style to directing on page 11. And even directing should do that, because you can't have both of you leading at the same time. Okay. Good job. So, how about you, sir? Give me one thing you had circled.
Don't ramble or dilly-dally.
Don't ramble or dilly-dally to a directing. Yes, you can go into a director's office. Isn't it nice weather? It's such nice weather. And they're sitting there and going, what do you want? Okay. One of my daughters is directing, and I call, and she goes, Mother, just tell me what you want when you want it. That's it. That's all I care about. That's all I need to know. Okay. So over here, we already did steadies. Orchestrating, the young lady, and I'm so sorry, I don't know your name, in the green. What did you have circled? Absolutely perfect. And think of your customers. Think of Ivan Irate. Think of directing kind of folk that's in your face. You take notes. You are letting them know they are important. Okay, good choice. Okay, good job. Give everyone a round of applause on that. And lastly, exacting. You're on. And you're appealing to?
I'm appealing to
Orchestrating.
and I'm thinking that my team abandoned me. I'm thinking we got our job done and we all dispersed. Right?
Okay.
That's who we are.
Morally supporting.
Okay.
And also, may I ask from you
Yes.
what the other statistics are? You said 61% are steady. How many are there?
It goes between 19 and 17. They're all, the other two are within 1% or so of each other. But the order is that there are more steady, then orchestrating, then directing, then exacting. Exacting has the fewest percent, is exacting.
I just thought that was important for us
Yeah.
to know.
Mm-hmm. See, there you go. Okay. From an orchestrating to an exacting. It is perfect example. Yes, go on.
Okay, so our approach, what we are supposed to be doing is we are to be encouraging them or attempting them to join with us in I'm reading,
A United Campaign Task Force.
would you read it? Because I'm
Oh.
on the wrong place. I mean,
Yeah.
I can read the answers.
So we are the exacting, and we were supposed to make a pitch to the orchestrating
Okay.
weirdos over there to join the United Campaign Task Force. And as we were talking, actually, it sounded very interesting, like we were making a pitch to legislators or to elected officials. Because we started looking at some of the lists of the things that how we would try to pitch in for you to join us. And it talked about these being people, they want to hear heartwarming stories. So we would tell you some of those things. We would meet on your turf. We would get to know you by name, tell you some of the great things that you have done, and join us because the project that we have has direct impact on people. And we know you care about people. And so we would try to draw you in. And that sounds to me like making a pitch to elected officials or legislators.
It could be, but yeah, I mean, because it's people focused. However, you probably would find all different styles within that electorate. So what else did you come up with?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, which,
What other things did you have that were adaptive?
well, we were going to have a heartwarming story.
Uh-huh.
We were going to tell them about how they could be involved in helping us to save children's lives. And that we were aware from the past activities that they've had, and specifically a particular activity that they had been involved in and how effective they were, and we would like to have them be on board with us. And that although we wouldn't be presenting them with statistics, we might present them with quotes. Or
Absolutely.
maybe a newspaper
Good.
article that would highlight the things that they would be involved in.
Absolutely. Give them a round of applause. Okay. One of the biggest things to notice about orchestrating is they want you to be excited. They like people being excited about something because they get excited about something. So when you seem like you're excited, they feel like they can get behind you. So what I would like you to do is, everyone on page 11, circle orchestrating. What 3 things can you do to adapt your style to orchestrating? Okay, directing, you're task focused. And what would you do? What one thing would you guys do to adapt over here? Is she also directing? Okay. So then we're going to be back to you. What one thing did you have? Compliment them, absolutely. Because again, they and here's what people don't understand. They seem to be people. They seem to get along. They have a facility to orchestrate, to facilitate. But they care about what you think about them. They care about what you think about them, folks. So giving them feedback about how you think they're doing is important because they care about that. Over here, let's go over here. What one thing did you have circled?
I did meet them at their workspace so you can leave.
That's what they're laughing about. See, they can laugh at themselves on that because it's so true. Okay. And over here, what one thing did you have circled?
Speak their name.
Speak their name. And that was one of the things he had. And over here, how about you, sir? What one thing did you have circled? Right. Provide a friendly environment. They like to have fun as well, and they do get things done. Here's a couple additives. Let me just wrap this up on this, okay? Orchestrating gifts is creative. They can think of more ideas in a single second. The problem is that when they talk to you, they're thinking out loud. So they drive them nuts because they're going da 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 da, and they think because they're all over the place they don't have any substance. But the fact is, you want to harvest their gifts. So what you can do to coach them is to help them look at what they're looking for. You know, they're talking, and you could say, so you've told me 5 different things. Which one do you think is most important? So you bring your critical skills to their creativity, and it's a good combination. In study and directing is great for ideas. Let's jump off the cliff, man. You know, we're going to go. Let's take action. But often they don't put anything to place to support it. And you are the people to put into support to have it happen. So it's your consistency, the plotting of one step after another, that is a tremendous compliment to their fire, you know, flip of a match. And that brings a harmony and getting things done through people. So we're back at square one again, which is what is the point? To get things done through people. And I'm going to draw your attention in the handouts to the amount of information you have here. On page 11, in the left-hand column, is what each style can do to grow. Okay? On page 12, how each style responds under pressure. Look at how clever that is. Directing has an ability to tell. Under pressure, they give up being nice. They just say, you do this. We've had enough discussion on this. You do this, you do this, you do this. In orchestrating, the same enthusiasm that allows them to orchestrate a group and get you on the same page becomes dramatic. Oh my gosh, this is just awful. What are we going to do? This is just the most horrible thing I've ever met in my life. Okay. And steadies, because they don't want to create waves, they may not say to your face what is wrong, but then because they don't, it comes out sideways, so it may be a passive-aggressive type of thing, and we all are at some point. And of course, exacting, now my girls are directing exacting, and their very gift of details, dot the I's, cross the T's, prove it, under pressure, they go back to what feels safe to them. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? What would happen if we did this? What would happen if we do that? What would happen if we do that? So, picky, 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 picky. But that's their gift, but it's overused under pressure. And this should be invaluable to you on page 12. That is, in change, what does each style need in change? What their pace is, what their gift is. That document alone would be invaluable when you have a change to sit down and have a discussion with groups and a team. The next page, if you are a leader, is let's say you all were my team. I would take a flip chart paper and have an assessment of how many directings did we have, how many orchestrating, how many, etc. And what you have will be the profile. And what are our strengths? Now, take this information, plug it into the morning, and you talk about how we want our culture to be. How does the profile of our team help us to get there, and how does it hinder us to get there? And how can we use this as a basis to the two behaviors we're going to keep continually practice? Do you see how it all dovetails nicely? So those are the elements of it. Perfect. Let's stand up. Go back to your seats. That's a good stretch. Okay, we have a half an hour, and we're going to now put with it, we had visual, verbal, and vocal. You looked at the styles. We looked at the service. We looked at what kind of power broker we are. We looked at how that can affect how people take us in and our message in. Now we're going to look at some techniques that actually coaching language, if you will, about how you can chat with people and utilize emotional intelligence and an ability to approach people in ways that allow them to hear you instead of being the power raiser. So, one takeaway, time please, one takeaway from the interpersonal skill style. What one thing did you take away from that? Give me some input. How can you use it? Not start with jokes. Well, on exacting. What else? What else is another takeaway?
Be more aware.
To be more aware of the differences. What else is a takeaway? What else can you use it for? Hello? Oh,
Just make sure you're using everything that you possibly can to your advantage. Like evaluate your staff and put them in situations to succeed and empower them. All that jazz.
All that jazz. Okay. What other kinds of things? Yes.
Think of your audience that you're trying to present to and what your goal
Yeah, and she used the word manipulate, which has a negative connotation. What you're looking at is actually a technique we're going to learn in a minute, and that's lead with the need of the customer. What you're doing is you're leading, it's a choice. You are choosing methodologies to present that helps them to hear. And you can say manipulation in a positive sense because what you're doing is consciously choosing. Yes?
So when you're putting a group together, say you want to put a task force together, should you strive for a balance of personalities?
Ideally.
Or let's say you have an executive council that runs the library.
Uh-huh.
Should they all be the same?
Well, let me ask you something. What would happen if all of them were steadies?
Yeah, but in reality, how do you go about putting
Well,
together a group that is,
wh-
you don't have control of that unless you administer a test.
Okay, here's a couple of things. It's true. You cannot always control the folks and who you have. But by and large, if you are aware of them, you know about different styles, you certainly want someone on the board that's going to make decisions. You certainly want someone on the board that's going to play a supportive role. You certainly want someone on the board that's great at details. Otherwise, you know, and you certainly want someone on the board that has a tendency to be able to speak for the group and be a spokesperson. From that vein, you are getting a mix. And it, you know, sometimes I know we take with what we have, who wants to volunteer their time. What I would say is because we have all four styles within us, knowing in order to be successful, we need to operate from all four of those styles. You know, how can we look at putting our best foot forward and playing those roles, because we're going to have to play all four of them to be successful. Okay, so that's my answer to that. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to highlight, and we're going to practice, and we're going to play with one technique, several here, and it's under the concept of alignment, and it's on page 17. And this goes with Loretta Merlando on Say It Right the First Time. And she talks about the concept that language has a capacity not only to have information, but to inspire and strengthen. So if we look on page 17, we are looking at, where's my style here? We are looking at how we can lead with our truth. And where do we use this? Leading in tough situations, clarifying your intentions up front, and sharing thoughts, feelings, and concerns. So you have a scenario on a daily basis where it's tough. You're not quite sure what to say and do. A lot of people look for the exact words. What I would, and emotional intelligence would encourage you to do, speak what's going on in your mind or heart. Not always, but when it is appropriate. It is a good way to begin that creates a sense of, well, what it does is you're leading by taking a little bit of risk and sharing something about yourself. When you do that, you are giving people the permission to share a little bit about their truth. And we model as a leader. So the value is that we create a rapport and an openness and an intimacy. When we share a little bit about ourselves, one of the criteria I get from interviewing employees is they always act, leaders always act like they know it all. They always have an answer and they're not human. Right or wrong, that's a perception I get. So if you risk a little bit to say what's on your mind. So let's look at the situation on page 17. You have to speak to someone that you hung with as a staff person, and now you're supervising them. You need to make comments about the performance of this person, yet you don't want to damage the relationship. Leading with your truth is leading with what you're feeling and thinking in the moment. And the reason for that is that as you lead with that, you're giving them permission again to follow up with their truth is, and you're kind of setting expectations. You're setting your intentions up front. What could you say? Using the technique of leading with your truth, what is it that you're really thinking and feeling? What is your concern here? What could you say leading with your truth? Who wants to give it a shot? Anyone want to try it?
Hey, this is super awkward, but
Okay. It could be. What might you say? Because?
Because we're friends, but I'm also your supervisor in the situation, and I have to talk to you about an issue.
Okay, good. So you are naming the elephant in the room, because if you don't, I mean, it's so much easier, because they probably feel awkward, you feel awkward, and once you mention it, it takes the sting out usually, because you've mentioned it. How else might you start? Who else would like to try it? What does it say in the scenario? What clue do you have in the scenario about what's really going on inside your mind? What it is you're concerned about? The relationship. So how could you lead with that?
I'm concerned about our relationship. I'm confused. I see that you're doing this, and I wonder how it's affecting our relationship.
Okay, that would be an honest way to start. You know, we were friends first, okay? I'm in a management role now. I have something to say about your performance, and I hope we can keep it separate because your friendship is important to me. Boom. Go and say what you want to say. And what that happens is you're clarifying your intent up front. And let me share with you in coaching folks what happens. If you are uncomfortable with how you're feeling and thinking, here's what I find people do to cover up. They go into this little professional mode, and they get very tight, very stiff, and they kind of blurt out something. And they cover up the uncomfortableness by a stiffness, instead of being open, saying what's on your mind, being real, and then what happens is the other person comes back. So let's look at some scenarios. I would like this group on the bottom of page 17 to do number 1. I would like you all to do number 2. I would like you all to do, you two, number 3. And I would like you all as a group to do number 4. And I would like you to come up, you guys do number 4, this group, you guys 3. And what I would like you to do is take the scenario and come up with a group of how you might lead the conversation using this technique. Okay? Pause, please. Let's see what feedback we get. And let me share with you that in the coaching folks that I've had, both with leaders and staff, one of the most difficult things that people say is, I just didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to begin. And I know I found myself in that situation. And again, you're looking for the right words when if you led with what's going on inside first, it cracks the ice in a sense, and it opens the conversation to things that are real. It fits right in with emotional intelligence, which balances the task and the relationship. So you might lead with the heart and follow up with the task, or depending on the style, lead with the task, follow up with the heart. But it's neither either or, it's and. So the situation is your mate, you're telling your mate something that really bugs you, and you're afraid that you don't want to hurt their feelings. Who's your reporter, and what did you say?
We just said, started with I feel, I think, make it directed you from your perspective versus I don't like it when you, which would be more of a target kind of a thing.
Okay. So what is the person afraid of
Which person?
in this scenario?
The person who's directing, trying to start the conversation.
In this, yes.
Hurting feelings.
Okay, so how lead with that?
So,
Pa-
when you do that, I feel bad, or when I see that, that makes me feel whatever, which directs the feelings back to you versus
telling the person they're a bad person, because that would be their perception possibly.
Right. I agree with the I language, and you're concerned about hurting their feelings.
Right.
Okay. So, for instance, I've hesitated to bring this up because I didn't want to hurt your feelings. That's what you're concerned with. The issue is important to me. Then, when you, I feel, because. But the clearing the intention up front is really the takeaway from this, leading with your truth. So, I've hesitated to bring this up because I was afraid to hurt your feelings. If you speak to the intention, you clear the air. You're speaking to what you're afraid the confusion might be. Clear the confusion and then speak. So now we have number 2. Your boss has put you in charge of a task force. You notice a meeting going on and realize it's to gather information about the task force, and guess what? You aren't in it. And someone else is leading and you're upset and you're approaching your boss. What might you say? Over here.
I thought I was going to be leading this task force, and now I'm confused because I saw someone else leading the task force.
Okay. All right. What did you guys have?
Yeah, just,
Yay, I'm not doing it.
This is true. This is true. Okay. What else?
yeah, I don't know, it just, I saw someone else leading the task force and I wanted to, it concerns me that you don't trust my leadership. Like, can you give me some feedback?
Okay. I'm going to pause there.
That's assuming that this was done intentionally.
Right. So one thing I'm not saying that couldn't be a reason. One of the things I'd be concerned with if I led with that is you are making an assumption that that is the reason and you don't know yet. So let's look at something like this. Think about the concept that you're addressing the agreement, because that's really what the issue is. Earlier this month, we agreed I would be given the opportunity to lead the task force. I was upset when I noticed it was being led by Tim. Have you changed your mind? So you mentioned the agreement. That's the intention. This is what's happened. Now where are we? And again, you're leading with what your concern is. You feel because, but you're leading with the agreement and you're talking to the disparity between the agreement and what's really happening. Okay, number 3, scenario. You're speaking to your team about some changes that will affect their hours. You tossed and turned. It's 8:30 in the morning. Apply the tool, lead with your truth to begin sharing the news. What would you say?
I have some unfortunate news to share with everyone. This isn't an easy conversation. It's certainly not easy for me, but we're going to have to shorten hours, and this is going to affect people's pay. I'll be available all day to talk to you about concerns you might have and maybe find ways that we can resolve them.
Good. So she expressed what she was concerned about, and what I hear from workers is they don't care. They don't get me. They don't understand. They just gave me the facts. They don't know how that affects me. They don't care. So she addressed the feeling, she addressed the news, and she said she was going to be there. What did you all come up with? That was good.
We had a mixed, actually, viewpoint because these guys in the group wanted to start out with, I'm sorry I stayed up all night and tossed and turned.
Okay.
But my point of view was, I don't care, I just want to hear what you have to tell me.
Are you a directing?
Yes.
Okay, see? See?
I don't care that you stayed up all night tossing and turning. I want to know the purpose of this meeting that you called.
Okay, see how perfect that is? That is her style. That's what she cares about. Now here's what's interesting. I think I have this up here. There's experts tell you don't mince words. And the reason is that you don't want to couch it too much. Now on the other hand, orchestrating, if I were an orchestrating manager and they know me and they're used to my style, and I all of a sudden get curt and clipped, it may not come off well. Now, if you're doing it and they're used to you're just nailing it, no, I'm serious, which is fine, then if you went the other way, that would seem weird. Now I'd get really scared. So.
Yeah, and I even said, even afterwards I said the point, then I could go back and be like, I stayed up all night tossing and
Say the news. So look up.
Making them worry, why was she tossing and turning all night long?
Exactly. Okay. And again, style, y'all. I mean, if you have a reputation with a group of people, what does it work? Here's some what. I have this very simple statement. I have some information that might be difficult to take. The news is. So it does prepare them to listen, because that's what you're doing. And I'm confident, this is the encouragement statement, I'm confident we can get through this. And here's some of my thoughts. Boom. And that way, the key that's helpful, remember 60% is studies. Prepare them to listen. So some may prepare them to listen, I talked and turned all night. If you have a deeply steady group, that may be fun. You know what I'm saying? Or orchestrating. If you have more exacting group and directing, I wouldn't lead that way. You see how that would work. Lastly, a staff or manager is micromanaging you, control freak, and it's really getting on your very last nerves. And you want to communicate, but you don't want to alienate. What might you say?
You had a really good point for us that, especially with this situation with micromanaging, that like before you even go in, you have to really manage your expectations because it's a very difficult personality to deal with.
Right.
Because everything is so close to them that it'll probably alienate them.
It could.
But then what we got back to after that, to some extent, was using a lot of I statements of like, I really feel like I can help you more, and I really want to do more, but you have to let me do more, and kind of going along those lines.
Okay. Here's my suggestion. I observed you want to be kept abreast of all details, and I give my best performance by having some space. Plug into the commonality. We both want top performance. How can we create a win-win? One of the things you look at is if you learn from the communication style, you want to look at the motivation of the person. If they're looking for top performance, they're looking for getting things done right. And you can say, I want to get things done right and do the best job I can, and you want me to get the best job I can, but I work best with space, and you want to be kept abreast of details. How can we make this work? Okay? Good job. Okay, let's do the next one. Oh, let's look at a customer service. We want to defend. People have been waiting in line. You know, it's like Halloween or something, and people are in line, full moon, whatever. I realize you've been waiting a long time. I'd be upset too if I was billed 3 times for DVDs that I've already returned. Say it like it is. Lead with the truth. We try to defend it. Don't defend it. Agree. They don't expect you to agree. I guess you feel like I dropped the ball. It all diffuses any resistance around it. If you take nothing else away, this is a critical skill. Lead with the need of the customer. Lead with the need of the customer. It answers what's in it for them. Scenario. Let's look up here. You don't have it there. You have it up here. A team member is continually late to team meetings and aspires to take on additional responsibility. What is the need of the person you're talking to, and how can you reframe the conversation by first leading with the need so you prepare them to listen and then tell them what you want? Who wants to give it a shot? Yes, sir.
Well, I would say, hey, I know that you're valued here, we value you a lot. You want to take on additional responsibilities, and I can understand that, and I can see that in your work. But one thing that we need to try to get corrected, though, when we're meeting as a team, you need to be here on time to be able to show that you're cohesive with the rest of us. And, because if I give you extra responsibility and the others are showing up and you're not on time, that's going to look bad. So, to help yourself and help everybody else, be here on time, then we can make those advancements for you.
Cool. I like the basic premise you did. Good job. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want to cut out, this is odd coming from an orchestrating. I want you to cut out a lot of the statements in between. What is that person's need? You hit it. What was the person's need? What did they want?
Additional responsibility.
Okay. So let's say, Pete, go ahead, say that. Lead, you're talking to him. Pete, I know you.
Dixon, I know you. You want more responsibilities.
Right. Okay. And shh, and hit the late to team meetings and put it in his ballpark on what he wants. What would you say?
And I noticed that you've been coming late to the team meetings. How do you feel about that if I give you more responsibilities?
If you ask, you're opening the cart. Let's look. Look. I'm sorry, your name?
Dixon.
Dixon. Okay, he goes, my name's Dixon. Okay. Dixon, I know you want to take on additional responsibilities in this department. When you're continually late to team meetings, you're not going to reach your goal. End of tune. Because, bottom line, I mean, that may be you say, oh, everyone says heart. It's so direct. The bottom line is he wants to take on more responsibilities. Dixon, if you are continually late to team meetings, it's going to dampen your ability to get more responsibility in this department. It's totally on him and his goals, not my agenda. Okay? And it does work. Let's try this. Nancy is rude to customers, which is an unacceptable behavior and grounds for firing. She needs the job. How can you lead with the need and get your message across?
If you want to keep your job, you're going to start being nicer to customers.
Okay, right, and even nicer to the customers. I mean, here, I'm serious, folks, because in coaching people, the clarity that you say things is so critical. Be more, even more definitive about that. I know you want the job.
I know you want this job, but we've noticed that you're getting customer complaints that you need rude to them, and that's not acceptable in this organization.
And if you continue,
you're going to lose your job.
right on. Now I get it, and there's no mincing of words because it's not being rude. I mean, you want to say it with some compassion, but Ruth, I know you need this job. We've had different incidences where you've been rude to customers. If that continues, you won't be able to keep your job. What can we do next? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's look at this. John complains about everything and always thinks he has a better solution. He prides himself on his reputation, at least in his own mind, of what a good worker he is. What can you lead with the need of the customer? It's the equation you're trying to figure out. What can you say? What does he value? His reputation as a worker. Now put it together. Who wants to give it a shot?
Hey, John, everybody knows you're a really good worker. You bring a lot of complaints to the table. Could you please bring some solutions to these things that you've got?
And what will that do for him?
It'll make him work, do the things that he needs to do.
Okay.
Come with a better attitude, or come with solutions instead of problems.
But what's important to him?
That he's got a good reputation.
Yeah.
Really hard.
Try it again, nice and loud.
I don't remember where I was.
Okay.
John, you are a really good worker. Everybody knows you're a really good worker. Can you start bringing more solutions to the table?
And when you do that,
And when you do that, you'll show everyone what a good worker you are.
right on. Now, do you see it's a package? I've got to see the cause, the solution, and the result. When I see the causality, I have a better chance of plugging into it. And I mean, I know it works. I mean, I've seen it work. John, I know you pride yourself on being a really good worker, and we've seen that from you. When you continually bring up negative comments without solutions, it takes away from that reputation you so value. Let's see what we can do about being more positive. That's one way of doing that. Okay, look at what that looks like here. You want to check out the book, but the fine's too high. How can you lead with the need? Instead of saying, no, you can't do that. May not.
That's why I would ask, are you aware that there might be a problem with your account? There's a fine if you have 25 cents and you can't check anything else.
Okay.
You make them aware first.
Okay. Anybody else's comment? Yes, sir.
I would love to check out this book to you. I just need you to pay the fine first.
Right on. So here's what you could say. I'd be happy to check out that book. In order to check out books, to his point, in order to check out books, the fines have to be under $10. Yours is $12. Would you like to pay the $2 in cash or check? The child, let's go here. Use a language of supposition versus the language of superiority. If you're coaching somebody, using maybe, perhaps, what you're trying to do is to, here's what leaders complain about. I just don't understand. They always come to me, they're asking me for a solution, they never try to figure it out by themselves. And I say that we teach people how to treat us. So if every time someone comes to you, you're giving them the answer instead of trying to coach them to find the answer themselves, they're always going to come to you. So the language of supposition is it gives somebody a way out in their ego and it earns you more credit. Another technique is to let the person own it. So you ask what if so, here's a typical example. Watch, listen, the next week. Someone says, I don't know how to get this done. And immediately everyone jumps in and gives a conclusion. You take it right out of their hands. Well, what's worked for you? What have you tried? How did it work? What might you do next? How do you think that might work? It's coaching language. So let's look at what this looks like in a storyboard. And I'm going to ask for some readers here. Want to read the first one? Box, please.
Lead with their need. I've been thinking a lot about how frustrated you said you were.
And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Nice and loud. Up the volume.
Sure. I've been thinking a lot about how frustrated you said you were that your team members acknowledge there is a problem, but react with the attitude it's not their problem.
Okay, sir, do you want to read the next one?
The yellow one?
Yes.
Okay. A couple of thoughts occurred to me, and I was wondering if it's okay to run some of them past you.
You're treating them with respect, and you're treating them with respect and asking their opinion. How about yours? Would you please read the next middle box? You,
See what you think, they may work for you or not. Maybe you'll find it relevant, maybe not.
okay, that you are deferring to their choice and their judgment, okay? Next block over here, do you want to read it for me, please?
One time I was faced with a similar situation and I discovered, I knew someone who was in a similar situation and they shared.
Okay, you use story. When you say, I was in a similar situation and I found, you're merely sharing with them your experience and not saying you have to do this or you should do this. This is called third-party reference in sales, but it's a perfect technique. If she and I are having a conversation and I want to empower her with finding her own choices and her own solution, if I talk about a third party that had an experience, it's not you, it's not me, it's this third party, and I might objectively look at how that might be a solution. And lastly, over here, sir, do you want to read this one?
See what you think. Let me know what you decide. Let me know what works.
Okay, and again, you're leaving them with that thought. Go back to the magic marker. You go back to the magic marker that they have in their hand. You've given them, you've led with the need. You're looking at what their solution is by applying lead with their need, lead with your truth, let them save face, use a reference, and let them own their choice. Does that make sense? And there are examples here for that. There's a ton of other information here that you can use and study. I would like to end with this. One of the things we didn't really talk about, but is acknowledgement, and I do have some handouts for you that I will give you. One of the things to realize is there are two formulas. One is how to give praise, and the other one are the ABCs of motivation. The ABCs of motivation is most people have a need to achieve, belong, and contribute. I have a handout for you of very specific behaviors that each person can do to improve the achievement, belonging, and contribution within a workplace. The last thing I want to share with you is ASAP. ASAP. It's the language of praise. My granddaughter and I were at Christmas time at my brother's house. We escaped the mayhem and were in a back bedroom. I was on the bed reading a magazine, and my granddaughter at that time was just starting to stand and to walk. She was playing with blocks over in the corner, and she decided she wanted to be with Nana. So she goes crawling against the floor, on the floor, and you see these little hands come up over the mattress, and she stands. And she looks at me to see if I'm looking at her and I'm pretending to read a magazine. She looks around the room to see if anyone noticed this wonderful thing that she did. And seeing no one, she goes, "Yay, KK!" She learned a very valuable piece. That as soon as we see something that someone does positively, strike while the iron's hot. Because that has the greatest impact between when they did something and when you acknowledge. If you wait too long, it loses the impact. The second thing is S, ASAP. S is specific. If I really care, I pay attention to detail. So in today's world where 50,000 people quit work every day because they don't feel their work is valued, then if I say good job, that's probably better than most. But if I said, you know, you did a fabulous job, you had to take the input of 7 people, you synthesized that input, you did the report in color, you put graphs in, and I think because of your work, we're going to have a great chance of getting that grant. It's specific and it can be repeated. Accurate. Do you have a BS detector? People have BS detectors. Did you go to charm school and you're saying stuff that is not genuine? It has to be genuine. And lastly, it has to be proactive. And put it in terms, reframe it in the terms of the person. And the last thing I'll leave you with is this. When you talk about engagement and experience and effectiveness, we want to put our customers first, internal or external. My one daughter got a master's in Oriental medicine. She is a single mom. She worked, and she got straight A's. I sent her a card before we went out to celebrate, and the card was a stage, and there were curtains that go like this. And there was this little figure that came out from the side, big face, little hands, little feet, and the little figure comes out to the side like this and goes like this. And you hear a voice to the side that says, "Don't just stand there, gloat." And this figure goes, "Me, me, 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 me." And roses fall on the stage. Customers are looking for what's in it for them. When they know that you care, then they will care why it matters to them. Thank you.